Okay, so welcome to the next installation of the $100 rod versus $500 rod series. Now in this series, we are going to be comparing Japanese or JDM rods. And the rods we're going to be comparing are the brand new, just released, I think they've only been out a month, Jackal BPM. As you can see, this is a 6.9 medium heavy. And the not so new, and actually it's discontinued, has been replaced by a updated line. That's the Shimano Jackall Poison Glorious. Now this was a result of a collaboration with Shimano Japan and Jackall, and what they did was they used Jackall styling as well as a lot of their names and combined it with Shimano's rod technology. And this was the first rod series where they collaborated. Of course, they've collaborated on other rods after that, like the Adrena and the Poison Ultima. So let's go over what differentiates these rods. Now, just like the NRX and the Crucial, one of the main differences is the blank. Now the Jackall BPM blank doesn't seem to be, well, I should say it's pretty nondescript. It looks like to be a basic blank. It does not have any kind of gloss coating. It's rated at 1/4 ounce to 1 ounce. Now it's kind of thin to be a medium heavy in my book. It looks more like a medium. But I couldn't find any information about anything special about the blank. Now the Shimano's a different story. Now the Shimano, you get a higher spec blank. In fact, this was for a while the highest spec bass rod you could buy from Shimano Japan. And it comes with a lot of Shimano blank technologies. Now the major technologies are Spiral X and High Power X. And as you can see, this is also a 6.9 medium heavy with a 1/4 ounce to 1/2 ounce lure rating. Now, first of all, the Spiral X technology, basically what that is they take carbon tape and they wrap it on the inside of the blank going 45 degrees one way, and then they wrap another layer on the outside of the blank going 45 degrees the other way. So what this does, this lets you have a much lighter blank that's actually stronger, and it resists ovalization. So basically when you're fighting a fish and the rod bends, I guess most rods tend to oval while this will stay circular. And the next technology is the High Power X. Now this is something Shimano Japan's been using for years. Basically what they do is they take carbon, what they call carbon infinity tape, and they crisscross it all the way from the bottom all the way to the tip. And what that does, first of all, it gives it a nice weave pattern on the blank. You can really see it in the sunlight. And it also helps the rod from wobbling during the cast. Now the first rod I ever had that had this High Power X was the original X Pride. And when I first cast that rod, I could really tell the difference that the High Power X made. First of all, the rod was more crisp in casting, and it recovered faster, and it was a lot more accurate. So with my casting style, the High Power X blanks really did the trick. And you can see the High Power X spiral wrap on the X Pride, and you can also see it on the very popular Zodius series. In fact, a lot of companies are now starting to adapt this technology and using these the spiral carbon tape going up the blank. But Shimano is the first company that I've seen use that. Now, just like the NRX and the Crucial, other differences in the blank are probably the resins and the layering process and carbon content. But also, when it comes to the components, the Poison Glorious uses more expensive titanium guides with SiC inserts. Once again, SiC stands for silicon carbide, while the Jackall uses the more traditional stainless steel with alkanite guides, just like the Crucial did. And of course, stainless steel and alkanite are cheaper in cost. Now, one thing about these rods, and what I've noticed about a lot of bait casting rods in Japan, is that a lot of them use what I call a generic moderate fast taper. It's very rare to see a bait casting rod from any of the Japanese companies, including MEGABASS, EVERGREEN, DAIWA, etc., to use an extra fast taper on a bait caster, which is kind of strange. And both of these are what I call medium fast tapers. So it's going to be interesting to fish bottom contact with these to see what it's like to fish. I mean, I've done it before, but I've never stopped to think about what a slower taper bottom contact rod, how it would feel versus a fast or extra fast taper. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop the scale out, and we're going to get some weights on these. Okay, I got the scale out. Now the first one we're going to weigh is the Jackal BPM. And one thing to note, the Jackal BPM is a Jackal only rod. It's not a collaboration between Shimano and Jackal. So if I'm not mistaken, the Crucial weighed in at 3.9 ounces, while the BPM weighs an ounce heavier at 4.9 ounces. Keep in mind, this is an inch longer. Now the NRX, I believe, weighed 3.7 ounces, while the Poison Glorious weighs in at 5.1 ounces. So that's way over an ounce heavier than the NRX. Now, I can tell you that you really don't feel the weight in the Poison Glorious. And the reasoning behind that is that the Japanese, they're not really too concerned about building the lightest rod possible. What they're more concerned about is balance. Now, if you have a heavier rod that's balanced versus a much lighter rod that's unbalanced, then you're not even going to feel the difference in weight, especially when you're fishing. Now, when I pick this up, it actually feels lighter than the BPM because the BPM is more tip heavy, and the Poison Glorious is more balanced than the BPM, and it's even more balanced than the NRX. In fact, I can't really feel that much of a difference picking up the Poison Glorious versus the NRX, and that's because of balance. Okay, so let's go over some things here about why a JDM rod over an American rod or USDM rod. First of all, one thing you immediately notice is the styling on the Japanese rods, at least in my opinion, is way better. You get a lot more intricate details It just looks a lot nicer. In fact, when you look at this Poison Glorious rod and you hold it in your hand, you can tell this is a $500 rod. Now with the NRX, if you didn't know it cost $500, you wouldn't think it was a $500 rod until you fished it, because there's not much detailing. It's basically function over form with the NRX, while the Poison Glorious is function and form. This rod build is immaculate. Now, strangely enough, the BPM, even though it's right around $100, the rod build is immaculate on this as well. Let's take a look at some of the styling details there. You get this locking forenut here with the red accents. Made in China. Japanese rod made in China. And it's just overall clean. The epoxy is clean. There's no guides misaligned. So the Japanese are very well known for the intricate details, their meticulous attention to detail, build quality, and fit and finish. If anyone's ever ordered a rod from MEGABASS or EVERGREEN or any of the other high-end Japanese rods, you know exactly what I mean when I talk about fit, finish, attention to detail, and just overall better rod looks. So one other thing that separates Japanese rods from American rods are these things right here. Now these are rod sleeves. Now let's take a look at the Poison Glorious. Now this is neoprene right here. Feels really nice. Now this is not the sleeves, this is only the top portion, and this is there just to protect the tip. Now here's the sleeve itself. It's actually nylon. It's got the name, the length and power of the rod. You put the body of the rod in this nylon sleeve, and then you protect the tip with this neoprene section. Now with the NRX, it came with a rod sleeve, but it was so unimpressive I don't even remember what it looks like, other than I believe it was black. Now even at the $100-ish price point, you get a rod sleeve for the BPM. Now it's not the best quality, it's nylon, but I'm not aware of any USDM rod at the $100 price point that comes with a rod sleeve. If anyone's aware of one, let me know in the comments. Alright, so there we go. I'm gonna let you guys take a look at the rods one more time. I'm going to basically be putting these guys through the same tests that I did the NRX and the Crucial. See if there's going to be a difference in performance on the water, sensitivity, and hopefully I'll be able to catch a fish while fishing these rods. So there we go. Now if you guys want to see the Poison Glorious battle the NRX in a sensitivity test, let me know in the comments. That's something that I'd be interested to do if people want to see it. I know these are a little bit more than what people like to spend for rods, but you never know. So just let me know in the comments if you want to see that. Alright guys, thanks a lot.